thanks for coming. I'm Tilly. I am the workshop coordinator for ASURE, aka the Affiliated Students for Undergraduate Research and Engagement. We also have with us Isabel Colin. She is our lead coordinator for ASURE. And today we're going to talk about the Undergraduate Research Symposium and how to submit your creative works. So by the end of this workshop, you'll understand why we write abstracts to prepare for conferences. You'll be able to write and edit your own abstracts. You'll understand the kinds of presentations that happened at the Undergraduate Research Symposium. And of course, you'll be able to submit your abstracts and write them for your own project. So the Undergraduate Research Symposium happens every year. This year is the 11th annual Undergraduate Research Symposium. It is a fantastic opportunity for undergraduates from all disciplines to get together and share their work and what they've done. And it is open to all UO undergrads, all disciplines. It uses a very broad definition of research. LCC undergrads and CCC undergrads and visiting McNair scholars. It's happening virtually this year on May 27, 2021. And the Undergraduate Research Symposium is a really welcoming environment for undergraduate research. Last year, I'm a linguistics major, so I presented with a team of other undergraduates that are in a lab that I've been involved in for a few years. And we were intimidated at first. We were like, oh, a conference, I don't know if we're ready for that. But we're really glad that our PI encouraged us to step up and go do it because it was a great experience. We presented a poster and very unexpectedly, we won the College of Arts and Sciences Best Poster Award. And the awards at the Undergraduate Research Symposium do come with financial compensation. So that was nice. We got some cash too. And so the Undergraduate Research Symposium is a fantastic thing that the UO offers. And I really encourage you to not only take advantage of it this year, but in the years to come. Because the Undergraduate Research Symposium, you can present all sorts of work that you do anyways in your normal classwork. Your projects do not have to be finished to be presented at the Undergraduate Research Symposium. They can be term projects or thesis projects or things that you're working on with the professor. Maybe they're not entirely finished yet. That's totally fine. You do not have to be an honors thesis student to participate in the symposium, but honors thesis students do absolutely present. And of course, all disciplines participate. And so it's really this diverse collection of undergraduates getting together with their faculty mentors too to share their work. So we're going to talk a little bit about the presentation types that you can do for the Undergraduate Research Symposium. And I think you guys are more interested in the creative works presentations, but we'll go through the others real quick. So you also understand if you think, wow, that does actually sound like an option to me. Maybe I'd like to adapt my creative work to a poster. That's an option for you. And so you can check out, after we discuss these presentation types, the links in this slide for creating presentations and kind of checking out the Undergraduate Research YouTube channel. And so a quick word about the Undergraduate Research Symposium YouTube channel. Because the symposium happened virtually last year and virtually this year, one of the main platforms that we'll be utilizing this year is the YouTube channel for the Undergraduate Research Symposium. So last year, presentations that were pre-recorded in live sessions for creative works and oral presentations and poster presentations are uploaded to the Undergraduate Research Symposium, and there'll be a similar process this year as well. So check out the Undergraduate Research Symposium YouTube to get a sense of what it's going to look like this year. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about poster presentations. Poster presentations, if you've ever seen a scientific poster, you can Google like research poster, and it's kind of like, it's a little PowerPoint slide usually, and it has the title of your project. It has usually the methods, your results, your conclusions, and things like that in little text boxes. But a poster doesn't necessarily have to be text boxes and figures if you're doing a creative work. If you want to show perhaps a still image and go through your process similarly to a poster presentation. Go through what you were trying to do, what the aim of your project was, and include kind of the same aspects in the presentation that you would in your abstract, which you're going to talk about today. That's an option. Oral presentations are also available. They're 10 to 15 minutes long. They happen live and you don't have to pre-record those. You can also do a data story if your work is not finished and it's kind of a larger work and you want to focus more on perhaps not the final work, the final result of your investigation or your creative work, but the process more of creating it. And of course, we have creative works presentations. And creative works presentations allow for a great diversity in what you're able to do in the Undergraduate Research Symposium. And so they're a very flexible medium for you. And that definitely, if the posters and the oral presentations and the data stories are not jumping out to you, the creative works presentation is where you want to go. There are so many reasons to participate in the Undergraduate Research Symposium. I already mentioned awards and the prospect of winning money, but also the Undergraduate Research Symposium gives you an opportunity to practice communicating and presenting your work that you've done. And being able to clearly communicate something that rather complex that you've accomplished. If you're presenting at the Undergraduate Research Symposium, you're an expert in your project and probably in your field at that point. And so being able to explain these complex things to a general audience is a really important skill to have, not just in research, but in life generally. And of course, it's always nice to put the Undergraduate Research Symposium presentation experience on your resumes, grad school applications, job applications, things like that. And the symposiums gives you an opportunity to celebrate what you've done. So you may not have to do any extra work than you've already done in your classes or independently or with the professor. You can just enjoy presenting your work. It is super duper easy to register for the Undergraduate Research Symposium. By April 12th, you go on the symposium's website and you fill out a Qualtrics form. You only need your name, your presentation type. So choose whether you want to do a creative works presentation or if you would prefer to do one of the other formats. You need your faculty mentor's name. You need their email addresses. And if you're doing your project on a team, you also need the names of your team members and their email addresses. So after you register, you'll get a notification or an email asking you to submit your abstract by April 24th to confirm that you're going to participate in the symposium. So once you register for the symposium, you're in for the symposium and you just have to submit something of an abstract by April 24th. It doesn't have to be a perfect abstract. It doesn't have to be gold medal abstract. You're not going to get booted if someone doesn't like your abstract. So this is a really great way to practice abstract writing if you haven't done that before. The symposium gives you a really great way to do that. And then after you've written your abstract, you prepare your presentation materials and you upload those materials to the Undergraduate Research Symposium website by May 18th. And if you've chosen to pre-record your presentation, you'll need to upload that pre-recorded video as well. So let's talk about the abstract requirements. The abstract title can be 30 words maximum, and the abstract body can be 250 words maximum. Now, that's not a lot of word count. And so it's important to think about what are the most important parts of your research and what do you want your reader to remember about your project after reading this rather short piece of your abstract, this rather short piece of writing that is your abstract. And having such a relatively small word count means that you may have to edit a little bit and revise your writing, which is a really good skill to learn as well, because I think a lot of writing, especially academic writing, is editing. And we're going to talk about how to make the most of those 250 words. So an abstract is a big picture summary of your project. And it has a distinct anatomy, no matter what your discipline is. So it has always an informative title. The title is like the hook of your abstract. And it should draw your reader in, and your reader should have some idea of what your project is about after reading your title. And we're going to talk about titling strategies in a little bit. It should also have introductory sentences. What your reader needs to know before reading the abstract, giving them a toolbox, your question or your goal of the research, methods and results. And results and conclusion are kind of related, so we're going to talk about them in one piece. And of course, your significance. The significance is my favorite part of an abstract because it really gives you an opportunity to explain to your reader why your project is important and why it's applicable in a real world situation or to their lives and things like that. So let's dive into the intro sentences. Again, think about if you were explaining your work to someone who is educated but uninformed about your field. What would they need to know? And this is an excerpt from an abstract that I think is a fantastic way to introduce a creative project. Some of the abstract readers or abstract reviewers may not be familiar with perhaps a medium that you're using or type of writing that you're using, a genre of writing. And so maybe you use the intro sentences to give the reader an overview of the history of that genre, what that genre means, what that medium means. And then your intro statement should go pretty naturally into your purpose statement. So I like to think of these abstract pieces kind of like Lincoln logs. They build on top of each other and they interlock kind of like a puzzle. And so the transitions of your abstract are very natural. So after you've given your background, you want to say why this background is related to your research, and perhaps give a little bit about what inspired you to create this project. What's the goal? This is also a good opportunity for you to sell your project and say why it's unique, using phrases like perhaps this is the first project to explore blah, blah, blah is a good way to start it as well. Then going into your methods. When people say methods, they often think of like an empirical experiment, in a lab, but your methods don't have to be that at all. What process did you go to create this project? Or if you're planning to have a finished project by the Undergraduate Research Symposium and your methods, perhaps you may not have done all of them, your project is still in the works, what do you plan to do? And so just giving an overview of your plan, it doesn't have to be super nitty-gritty, but giving the reader an idea of what you're going to do in your methods is a good idea. And then the outcome of your project. What happened after you did your methods? What's the result? And then after you explain what the result was, it could be a tangible thing. Perhaps you created an object or a performance or a piece of writing, and describe that a little bit. And this is my favorite part, the why should we care part. You should end your abstract with telling the reader why your work is important, because it is. You worked really hard on it, and there's a reason you wanted to start it and keep going with it, and why you thought it should be presented. So why are you passionate about it? How do you think it applies to other people's lives? Perhaps it's important for the discipline or something like that. So start thinking about those ideas. And so I want to go through an example of an abstract. And so go ahead and run your eyes over this abstract, read it. And when you're reading it, look out for a few things. First, can you identify the pieces of this abstract? What do you like about this abstract? And what do you think should be improved? And to be clear, this is a really great abstract. It's actually given as an example of an arts abstract on the Undergraduate Research Symposium website. And so how can you take this abstract from good to really super good? And so I'll give you guys a second to read this abstract, and then we'll talk it over. Okay, and once you've finished, you can shout out your thoughts, or you can put them in the chat. Or if you'd like me to talk through it, if you guys don't feel like putting stuff in the chat or talking right now over Zoom, that is fine. And I'll talk through it, but I'll give you guys a minute to unmute yourselves or put things in the chat.
I think it's really like, I think the messages are nice, but I think it's like kind of confusing. And it's also like the whole time I was really waiting for the like, okay, what did they do? Like, I feel like it would have been nice if they said like what they did and then like why it was relevant maybe, but like that's my like unexperienced opinion.
No, I think that's a great insight, and absolutely. An unexperienced opinion, it is an experienced opinion because you're an educated person and you're reading an abstract and you should be able to understand. So I love that insight, making your methods super duper clear and not skipping over them. And I think you also make a great point because this person has used only 111 words. They've got over 100 words left. And so that would be a great use of that extra word space. Yeah, awesome thought. Does anybody else have any thoughts they want to share? I also think that this abstract would have a more informative title. I'm sorry, did I interrupt someone?
Oh.
Sorry, Isabel, you cut out for a sec.
No, you're good. Sorry. I think they do a really good job of setting up the premise of the project and giving you like the background information, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome point, and that's the example I showed you guys earlier of the awesome intro is from this abstract. It is a great intro sentence, and Isabel's absolutely right. It's a great toolbox. Does anybody else have other thoughts? If you do, just shout it out or put it in the chat. I'll finish my thought about the campus sculptures title. So I think that the title could be more informative. They still have 28 words. So there are a variety of abstract titling strategies that you can use. You can do the mini summary strategy, where you kind of, it can be wordy when you do this, but I think it's really effective because it gives your reader an overview of what you're going to talk about in your abstract. You can also, if your project is about accomplishing a goal, you can name it that way. For example, I think there was a project called Preserving Chinese New Year. That's a great abstract title because you know what they're going to talk about and the goal of the project already without even reading any of the abstract body. You can also use a question to title your abstract. I think one of the abstract titles was, I saw that it was so good, Yakuza in Japan, why are they here, ? That's an awesome title. By the end of the reading the title, you know that you're gonna know what the Yakuza are, that they're in Japan. Why are they in Japan? And there's kind of a sense of, should they be there? And so that's a really great way to introduce your abstract as well. So the title's the hook, it's the first impression. And so we're going to go over one more abstract, just so we really understand the anatomy of it. I'll give you guys a second to read through it again. And let me know when you guys are done reading. And I'll just say this is an awesome example, this title, of combining titling strategies. You see, they use a question format, and then they also do a mini summary. So combining title strategies is also a really great way to introduce your abstract. Do you guys have any thoughts on this abstract?
I thought it was really nice how the abstract like talks about the history and kind of like the methods, I guess, of their project. And then I think it's also really nice how at the end they're like, oh, each student is going to present their own experience. And I think it's also really detailed, which I appreciate, especially like with what we talked about the last one, maybe like a little bit more detail would have been nice.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. And you're absolutely right. They do a really good job of explaining the background and their methods and everything. And I think that they do a good job of setting up why this research is important. Do you guys see anything that might be missing from the abstract, or perhaps the student could hit harder on, could hit a harder point on it to emphasize it more?
I think they significant bit more at the end of like why this is significant. They kind of address it more in the beginning, in which you can certainly do that as a setup, but I think inserting it into and just reiterating like why this is an important thing, especially in predominantly white institutions, would be an important thing to include.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I had in mind, Isabel. Yeah, the significance of this work, Isabel's absolutely right. And so I think that if you have words left over and you've explained everything really thoroughly, and you should look at two things. First, can you break down jargon? Is there something that a lay reader may not understand? And second, did I explain why this research is important? Did I hit on the broader significance harder enough? Yeah, awesome job, you guys. I'm very proud of you already. You're going to be abstract experts in no time. Okay, and now I'm going to hand it off to our lead coordinator, Isabel, to talk about presentations.
So now we're going to go through a couple examples of creative works from the past couple years. Unfortunately, there haven't been a lot of great documentation, but these are some of the examples of creative works that we performed outside of this symposium that came. First one is from one of my friends, and actually the last year's ASURE lead coordinator, Addie Fecker. She and I and other students had taken a class in the Honors College called Eco-Literature, poetry, literature, and other works related to the environment. So they created a bunch of eco-literature poems and worked with a local artist to make these sketches and different poems. And they'd had a big monument on page, so like a very visual presentation. So this is, just an example of like you could do poetry and do writing for the symposium, and also you can add artwork to it. Even looking at the new entropy poem, it is a poem, but also it's artwork in the way that they designed and created the ways that the words are displayed. So then we can go on to the next one. dance performances. Also a wonderful way to do to participate in the symposium. Normally every year there is a African dance class that actually does a performance in the EMU, and it's just free, improv. We have drummer and students the way that they at the moment. So this is actually an example of a faculty dance concert by a class, by things read by your own experience, and you can channel that into dance, into music, or into other mediums for the symposium, which is really cool and really awesome that you can do. Next, please. Okay, so this one is a video actually about the history of Animal House. So the movie Animal House, I believe, came out sometime in the 70s and was primarily filmed on U of O's campus. So this person made a video actually dealing with the history of Animal House, and unfortunately I couldn't insert it in PowerPoint, but we will definitely be posting the slides later, so if you do want to access the video on this, you can. Thank you, Tilly. So you can actually, you can do history presentations. You don't have to necessarily do as like an oral presentation. You can do like through film. You can do other things to also do it.
Yeah, and just to add to Isabel's point about accessing the links, I'm sorry, Isabel. I put the link to a PDF of these slides in the chat, so you can refer to these links after the presentation as well.
Okay, this one was actually from the School of Architecture. Using and be like a model of what you want to picture. This was actually a poster done for a design of a student had used a software to create this entire SketchUp and an entire poster itself of, you post this photo and you draw arrows or have like little text boxes describing the important aspects of the design to break it down for the common layperson as to like why you chose this art is important, and like highlighting the aspects of your design. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be a mock-up. It can be like a mock-up poster, or it could be an oral presentation and going through like the different histories and the reasons that you chose this for your design. And then same for creative works, again, for next year, hopefully if we're, and you could bring up the entire mock-up that you make and bring it in as a symposium, like a physical symposium display, and that could be your creative works. So there's a lot of different ways that you can actually do it within architecture, which is really, really cool. Next, please. Okay. So this is actually really cool. So the School of Design, Art and Design actually has a place in the Center for Art Research, which is over off campus, over by the train station. They actually have something called the Movement Lab. So this is, from my understanding, kind of like a CGI, like those screens when you go like stand in front of it and it'll like pour sand all over your shadow. So it's kind of like that. And you can use capture motion to examine like body positioning, the metaphysics of like, or the in different ways that your body moves, and study that, especially related to art. So this is just like an option on campus, but this could also be an entire research project of like looking at the physics and the artistic movement, dancers or musicians and other things. So this is actually a really cool opportunity for students, especially related to art, if anybody wanted to use this and just being able to study the body and movement. Okay, so those are just some examples of creative works that you can do, and there's so many others that I haven't even scratched the surface on. But really any kind of project that you do, a term paper, physical research thing, like a physical art piece, there's so many different ways that you can be involved in research and, adapt your creative works and, to the symposium and be able to present that as research, because research is truly everywhere. And we highly encourage you to get involved with the symposium. But ASURE can seem intimidating. ASURE is here to help. So obviously, you know a little bit about us since you came to the webinar, but we are a one-stop shop for students to help find research advice, research opportunities, resources, and we are a student organization run by student researchers for student researchers. That is for those currently involved in research. So we also have our events in the future to the symposium about how to abstract if you want to do a poster or data or even a creative we have to translate if it's live. If you have any questions, you can email at us at ASURE this workshop. We also do classroom visits to into classrooms if they want to do like how to design or how to write an abstract. And we also have peer mentors available every week to answer questions about you know, how to write an abstract if you want to have someone take a look over your poster, or how do you get involved in research, if you know research opportunities for the summer or for other things. And obviously we help with the undergrad research symposium. So we do a lot, and we're definitely here to help in any way that we can. So these are actually our virtual office hours, and we have our 3 wonderful peer mentors, Madeline, Julissa, and Alexis, that are always available to help with any questions or and just a slight plug-in for here. We actually do have our 22 open on Handshake and Engage. So if you are interested in participating in ASURE, executive board or as a peer, the application for that is currently open. We encourage you to just take a look at it or apply. See your names come up in those applications. It's a really fun opportunity. And it's been extremely gratifying to be able to work with students and also help prepare the undergraduate research symposium, which I know personally for me is a huge deal. And it's been one of my favorite events of my time at U of O. So definitely take a look at the application. And if you ever have any questions, email us, come to office hours, or just even message the Instagram, and we'll be happy to help you out.
Thanks so much, Isabel.
Yeah, Kelby, you can ask because now.
Cool. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you guys were like done. So my first question is about the different types of presentations, which was like super informative because I didn't know that there were things other than posters. But for the live presentations, are those kind of like, I saw that the length was longer than some of the other ones and they seem kind of more like intense. Are those ones that people kind of have to like jostle for a bit, or can anyone access them if they want?
Yeah, so that's a good question. By jostle, I think that you mean like having to be getting the presentations is competitive, and it's not at all. If you choose one, you got it. And that's one of the things that's really great about the Undergraduate Research Symposium. You don't have to jostle with anybody else to try to get these presentations. You just got to register, and your presentation preference, whatever you choose it, that's your presentation. That's a great question. Thank you all so much for coming, and we hope to see you at other workshops this term and at the Undergraduate Research Symposium.